Do you pay on dates?
I don't want to get canceled.
Let's get canceled. He sent the Venmo
Venmo
request.
request?
Venmo request. Do you give expensive gifts?
I think my time is very expensive. That is an expensive gift. People go on dates and it doesn't work out and they're like, let's be friends. I was like, I have enough friends.
I have a lot of guy friends and they just like don't let me pay for things. In dating life, I'm like, I cannot go less. Like you wouldn't even become my friend.
Like I want to make enough money that my wife's small business can lose $20,000 a month, right? Like,
Yes. Ankur, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this.
Kristina's podcast. So today we're going to talk about how to get rich while staying happy. So Ankur Nagpal is in his early 30s with a net worth of 9 figures, north of 9 figures, I think. He started making money in college with his Facebook app business, but his real life-changing moment was when he sold his company Teachable for $250 million. Am I right?
I'm not allowed to confirm the actual acquisition number, but that it's a reported 250 million.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So now you are the founder of a fintech company called Carry that you can confirm.
Yes.
Ankur will tell us all about how to get rich while being happy. We're not going to copy Naval here, so we will focus on personal finance aspects for startup founders, the financial decisions you made that contributed to your happiness, the mistakes you made, and you promised me, you signed the paper that you will be radically transparent about the numbers while you do so.
Yep, happy to do that. So.
Okay, a few facts about you. Please confirm or deny, but I think I got it right. So born in India, raised in Oman in Middle East before moving to America for college. Your parents saved money to get you to the college, and it kind of put the huge weight on you that you have to make it. There's no choice. There's no not making it.
Good, impressive research. Yeah, great job.
Have you recovered from that trauma?
It's such a minimal trauma. I mean, I look back on it, right? It's at the end of the day, my parents still were middle class, but they still saved money for it. And it's still a head start a lot of people didn't have. I did feel guilty in college initially where if it was my own money, I wouldn't have gone to class. But because they were paying for it, the first year I actually did go to class. But eventually, after my business started doing well in college, I could pay for the latter half. And honestly, that gave me the freedom to like just not go to class, like not really take college that seriously. So, but yeah, still feel very blessed.
Yeah, it gave you freedom. And so you started your business out of your dorm room that built and monetized Facebook application. And you made millions of dollars in the process. So you made at least
it's millions of dollars the way, someone says I make 6 figures and they make $105,000. It was over $1 million, but not millions and millions.
But $1 million before 21.
Correct.
And you paid a lot in taxes.
Yeah, I knew nothing. Funny story is I actually didn't know you had to pay taxes because I grew up in Oman. I grew up in Oman in the Middle East, and Oman has a lot of oil money, so there's no concept of taxes. So in Oman, when you earn money, you earn 1,000 whatever riyals, you get 1,000. So it took me honestly 2 years, and then I went to the IRS and I basically apologized, and they actually accepted they didn't charge penalties. I think there were probably still nominal interest payments, but no penalties because eventually we paid for like 2 or 3 years at once.
Wow, so you were not paying taxes?
Yeah, because I didn't know I had to.
Oh my God, you didn't have an accountant, a CPA, you good money, America, free country.
And then I went to a CPA who looked terrified. They're like, what is wrong with you? Like, you got to do this now. I also had a bunch of anxiety around immigration because I was a student and there's complexities around earning money, all of that. And my accountants were like, look, just pay your taxes, deal with the rest as it comes.
Yeah, my first year, I also didn't file a tax return. I was a student because I didn't know. Like, there are so many things you have to do in addition to this bullshit.
There's like a CPT and OPT, all of these qualifications. Yeah, immigration is a whole other
and you feel like, am I going to survive in this country, let alone pay taxes? So at 24, you founded Teachable.
Yep.
Over the next 6 years, you scaled it to 60 million ARR and eventually sold it for $250 million. And you got approximately like 40 million in your bank account. What did you do the first thing?
So I remember when we sold the company, it was the world's smallest violin. We'll play for the sad story because it's not a sad story, but it was April or May 2020. So to flash back, we were under lockdown. I was in my 400 square foot apartment in isolation. I was actually not allowed
my
to leave the house. Like, you couldn't, had to be socially distant. There was no bars open. So it was like the saddest, like, it was like, wow, I have a lot of money in my
Very
bank account.
sad $40 million.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
The world's smallest
poor
violin.
you.
The world's smallest violin plays, but actually did nothing. The first
you didn't order anything, like nothing, just got the money, like, good job, Ankur.
Good job. The first thing I bought was probably a month or so later when things had opened up. I bought a car because I wanted to go surfing. But even then, I bought a secondhand car because it was like $10,000
wrong
cheaper.
with you?
I know. I don't know. It's just the way I was raised, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, but I feel inspired because I'm the opposite. I'm like, abundance mindset, let's go.
I do believe I have an abundance mindset, but some part of it is just, how you were raised or whatever, where buying a very mildly used car for $10,000 cheaper I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm very independent, so all the money that I made myself. Like, education was free for me in Russia, and I got it for free in the US, so I don't have debt. And but my parents did provide apartment, and they also bought me a car, like that, like the foundation, and then it's up to me to upgrade. I'm like, I don't want this car, I don't want this apartment. I'm just gonna work hard to get where I am. But different upbringing, because I'm betting always on myself. No one like paid for my education or something like that. So I guess that's a good
You're
point.
truly self-made.
Now I need to be more like you because I'm building the startup. And now when I look at the Chanel bag, I'm like, how many months of my assistant's salary is this? How many hours it would save me? How much freedom it would give me to, spend time on my personal relationship, to just like sit and do nothing. So yeah, I want to get into the freedom. So at 31, you started Vibe Capital, an early stage VC fund that raised $80 million and invested in 80 plus tech startups. How much did you invest in that fund from your money?
Almost a quarter of it was my money. And unlike other venture funds, one of the things we did is most venture funds, they say they charge a 2% fee, but in reality, it's a 20% fee, right?
Yeah.
Because it's 2% for 10 years. So if someone raises a $100 million fund, they're keeping $20 million no matter how they do. And no one knows that, actually.
No, actually, I think this is I'm not going to say that.
It's great marketing for the venture industry.
You can be very wealthy while not even performing. You can just get wealthy just by raising a fund.
I'm not going to name names, but there's no shortage of very mediocre funds that keep raising $500 million, $1 billion, return maybe 2x over 10 years, underperform the S&P, but the partners are very, very wealthy. But I made a choice where I'm like, look, I'm running a fund. If the fund fails, I'm going down with the ship. So 20% of the capital, for the first fund, a third of the capital was mine. Second fund, 20% of the capital was mine, and no management fees. So,
dude, it contradicts to your own advice to startup founders to put not more than 10% of their net worth into, you already
but like at that point, I'm playing with house money, right? It's no matter how the fund did. I was already at a point. I sold my company. I'm financially fine. So it was actually my dad who pushed me to take more risk. Where where I was like, I don't know, maybe I should invest a little bit more conservatively. And he's like, you have a chance that no one in our entire, like, you can go back in our family history, like forever. No one in our family has ever had this sort of shot. So you may as well go for broke. He's like, well, not literally go for. He's like, you can take some money, put it aside. With the rest of it, take more risk. He's like, I always wish I took more risk in my life, so fuck it, go for it.
Oh my God. And he's like, you can move into our place.
Yeah, if needed.
That you bought for them.
If needed, yeah.
Okay, so what is your number that you set aside? Like, okay, this is my freedom number. The rest I'm putting them on the table.
For simplicity, what I did is I did roughly half and half. Half my money is indexing the S&P, and I know no matter what happens, that will be
10,
fine.
20% a year, it's
sure. And like, let's even imagine the worst case scenario. If there's a 20 or 30% drawdown in a really bad year, you're still good. It'll still keep growing. The
if
other
America
half,
wins. But if America doesn't win, like, are we going down as a...
I will just look at the 100-year history, and I just think, like, even in the worst...
Did you look at the presidential election debate?
I think we all, including me, make a lot of financial mistakes when we think we know better. I just trust the system where it's like index the market. If you're scared about the US, index the global stock market, right? Don't index the US stock market. Yeah. Do that with half your money. And for me, the other half, I was like, okay, balls to the wall. Let me put it in my venture funds, put it in startups, take more risk with it.
Love it. I love this.
Yeah.
And I want to meet your dad.
He's a
sounds
legend.
like
He's
cool.
a legend. He's a legend. He's funny anecdote about him. He is 69 years old, and a year ago he got his first tattoo, and now loves getting tattoos. So he's pretty badass.
What is the tattoo?
It's not a great tattoo. It's a question mark on his wrist because he's questioning everything. But you got to respect the man for getting a tattoo at that age.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I already love him.
Yeah.
I want to meet
Yeah,
him. I think maybe I met you for a reason to meet your
Yeah,
dad.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, 32. Now you're 34?
Yeah, 35. Just turned 35.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
mid 30s, not
Okay.
early 30s anymore.
Perfect. Okay. At 32, you launched Carry, a platform designed to help business owners build wealth by being smart about their money and taxes. So you kind of want to help others to get the freedom that you got.
Basically, what happened is while selling Teachable, at the time I knew nothing about personal finance, taxes, first generation immigrant.
You didn't know
Although-
you have to pay taxes. Jesus,
I did,
this
yeah.
is-
No, by that point I knew I had to pay taxes, but right before the acquisition, I was able to hire lawyers and consultants, and we'll talk about, QSBS and trust and all of that. But to me, it looked like they did dark magic. To me, it looked like they did some dark magic, and all of a sudden, I didn't have to pay tens of millions of dollars in taxes. And I was like, wow, there are a lot of people who can't afford those consultants. They can't afford those lawyers. How can we build a platform that makes it simple for every business owner to take advantage of what's in the tax code? So
I love it. Now you have freedom to choose what motivates you to wake up every morning. It doesn't have to be work. Like if you search deep down, what is it that you wake up, come here?
it was interesting because the time after when I sold my company, I thought my life would get dramatically better. It actually didn't change at all. When I stopped doing the job I was doing, which was CEO of Teachable, my life got dramatically better. And what that showed me is by the end, I wasn't enjoying the actual day-to-day job. And selling the company, dollars in the bank, didn't actually change that. So this time around, I really want to ensure that as long as I'm building my startup, it's something I want to do. Because if it's something that's stressing you out, and there was a post I made that went viral actually where, back in the day, I tried a lot of things to sleep better, where it's like, oh, you get an 8 sleep bed, you give up alcohol, dark room. But you know what worked? Giving up being a startup CEO, right? So at the end of the day, you see all these people online. They're like, yeah, I need to fix my sleep. I'm doing this Brian Johnson thing. It's like, no, dude, your job just sucks. Your work sucks. Or, you're dealing with an inherent level of not living the life that you're meant to be living.
No, I actually disagree with that. I'm very happy with what I do, but I flew to Singapore, which was a stupid decision. For 4 days, I flew there, I suffered, and then I got back, I'm still suffering. I have a
But that's jet lag. That's jet lag. That's very different. That has there's a reason, right? You put your body in a metallic tube and threw yourself across the world. There's a reason that you're not going to sleep amazingly because you're adjusting to that. But no, I know a lot of people who are 23, 24, young kids now who are going so deep into physical wellness and stuff. And I guess it's good, but at least for me, my early 20s were seeing how close I could get to death without actually dying, right? I wasn't thinking about cold plunges when I was 22 years old. But going back to it, what I want to do now is even if I'm running a startup, even if I'm doing a supposedly stressful job, I want it to be something that I enjoy doing in the moment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's really the point of it?
Yeah, and I'll share mine. So I had an energy awakening, ego death last year. I also went to Brazil when I left Cooley. I know
Yep.
you also went to Brazil,
Yep.
so I spent 4 months there, and it was internal transformation for me. And now I'm very attuned to my energy, and I could physically feel that there is nothing in this world more important than love, doing what you love, and just sharing that and receiving, all of the things, from the world. And in the moment, I ask myself, do I enjoy doing it? Do I love doing that? And if not, I'll do my best to realign that. And for me, that's the freedom.
Of course. And of course, that doesn't mean every single day is going to be a blast. And at the end of the day, I do think a lot of people that are drawn to building a business as you are or as I am, we still like hard things. We like challenges. It's not again, I spent 2 years traveling, pure leisure. Even while traveling, I found a way to get addicted to some pursuit. It may not be professional, but there was something like pure leisure. Chilling on the beach is fun for 4 days. Like after that, my brain wants a challenge. So it still has to be challenging. But when I think about it now, after 2 years of traveling, I really started to miss the competitive part of me of building something, and which is why I ended up starting another company.
Love it. What do you enjoy doing the most with your company? Do you enjoy being the CEO?
I enjoy being the CEO now. I enjoy being the CEO in the early stages. Last time, I didn't love being a CEO after maybe 50 or 60 people. I did it anyways because I had a lot of ego attached to it. I was like, it's my company. I should be the CEO. This time I'll see, right? Maybe this time I build the company in a way that I still enjoy that. But what I really enjoy is just honestly like solving the problem of how do we grow the business every single day, week, and month. And everything else is like downstream of that. Like I wake up every day looking at our numbers and I want to see the number go up. I'm like, addicted to the dopamine of like just seeing this graph and making the graph go in the right direction and doing whatever
Like
it
a
takes.
kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So at that point, it feels like a game on the inside. Yeah, there are moments when we push, but it is like a game.
It's 100% a game. I mean, again, I know people. Thankfully, I never got super deep into video games, but a lot of people who spend their life like getting really good at video games would be very good at business, right? It's honestly the same thing. You're just moving around real world stuff.
So when I was 14, I played Sims, and I got a cheat code, and I got like the most expensive house and everything,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there, I was like, what is the point of
Yeah.
this? And then after like finishing the game, I was like, this is not designed by me. I might as well take this time and invest in my real game, because this is the interesting game. Like now we are like interacting like two characters
Exactly, right?
in a skin suit, and we are doing something. Yeah.
And I've always been a very competitive person. So for me, I just channel that competitive energy to building a company instead of playing a sport.
Yeah, and we can design our own game. We can change, like there is no the game designer that the rules that we need to follow. We invent the rules. What does your tattoo mean?
So this one was during COVID, and
When you got $40 million
well,
in the
yeah,
bank?
honestly, this was more for the aesthetic. There's an inner purpose. I don't talk about it, but yeah, I have another one here, and it's something that again I spent so long debating whether it's the right thing or whatever, and then I was like, just do it, and I've never regretted it since.
What is the meaning behind?
I don't share that publicly.
Can you do you want to share with me without I'll cut?
It's fine.
It's very
It's fine. It's fine. It's personal.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so how would you like to be remembered after you die?
I think the whole idea of legacy, it's a little bit selfish. I think we're here for some time. We live a meaningful life to us, maybe have children, leave a legacy back that way. But I personally don't, there are people who want to be remembered by the history books. I think in 3 generations, we're all forgotten. So I don't really think too much about sort of legacy. With that, in terms of how I want people to think of me, I want to be known as someone that while I did my work seriously, that I didn't take myself seriously. I tend to think a lot of the people I respect and admire the most, no matter what they do professionally, are just goofballs. They're just, having fun as they're living life. And I think that's the sort of thing that I find motivating.
Okay, not remembering you, but after you die, what you want people to have that they didn't have before you? Like when you come back, I don't know if you believe in that. If you come back later and oh, thank God someone created this. Cool.
Again, I'm not Elon Musk. I don't want to build interspace travel. If the people around me were affected for the positive by whatever I did in a very sort of local way, that's good enough for me.
Perfect. What is happiness for you? What are the aspects, fundamental things that combine?
I think the biggest thing, and this has become a bit of a cliche now, it's freedom, right? It's being able to do what you want. I mean, for instance, after selling Teachable, I was given a lot of equity at the new company. It was a new grant. It wasn't tied to the acquisition for continuing to work there. And I basically walked away from the equivalent of, I don't know, at least $10 million just because I'm I got money now. I don't need to do this if I don't want to. So I do think the most valuable thing you can buy is that freedom. With that said, I have spent enough time sort of reverse engineering what I think makes me happy. And I think it's, for me at least, it's very simple. It's like spending time outside, physically like moving my body. Movement is so critical. Relationships with people I care about around me, the more frequent, the better, and work with purpose. So if I do those 4 in a day, I automatically feel happy.
Perfect. We are very similar.
Yeah.
That's why now I know why all of my friends like, you have to meet the guy.
The universe was
The
conspiring.
universe was conspiring that we meet. And I'm internally right now in the stage that I want to create freedom through structuring and building the business the right way. And I really love what you said. That's the thing that Naval was telling me, like my friends, that I need to use financial analysis and metrics as my board to navigate my decisions. Right now, I'm like, do I feel? Is it a vibe? The energy? I'm like, yes. Because sometimes it's not logically, but I feel this is a yes or this is a no. But I need to have these metrics that guide my decisions. Because right now I'm like, my assistant is like, what hotel you wanted to be booked? I'm like, what can I afford? And I actually don't know the answer to this question. Like, what can I afford? Because I'm the owner, I'm the CEO, and I'm like, the CEO, it's like 2 different people, and I need to set the parameters for the CEO. What, like, is business class acceptable at this revenue or not? Like, what salary is acceptable? So it's very interesting, and we will get into that. But before we do that, I want to talk about a little bit personal little things. Okay, which material things bring you the most joy? I know you loved buying the house to your parents, and taking care of your family, but like little something silly, expensive things.
Yeah. So if I have a long flight, like having a bed when you fly is you can't go back from that. Can't go back from that. That is, and in general, just travel is something I do spend on relative to everything. Like I like nice hotels. I like going for nice vacations. Generally, it's experiences over things, kind of all the way. Material things just inherently have never, like, they don't meaningfully move the dial for me. But yeah, I would say travel is probably something I spend on.
Yeah, so in Singapore, I flew premium economy. I'm still, my eyes is twitching like for 20 hours. And I just decided that the business travel is not happening for me unless it's a business class, because then I recover the next 2 days and I'm just like not productive or functional.
And New York, Singapore, if that's the flight you did, is also the longest flight in the world. It's also like really, it's a tough
Okay, I
one.
was traumatized, okay?
Yeah.
And after that, I'm like, whatever the business travel, if we can't afford business, I'm just not going there, because I live in Silicon Valley. This is the best place for networking. So I do not have to fly to Singapore. And I just like draw that line right there.
I think the other thing that it isn't a luxury as such, but where I think having money helps a lot is, let's say like something unexpected happens. Let's say you're traveling and a flight gets canceled. I'm traveling with my family. Being able to be like, you know what, no worries, we'll buy a brand new ticket right now. I like just being able to deal with unexpected stuff. I find it to be like great, right? Because now you're not worried about it. So in general, whenever I can pay for comfort, convenience, funnily enough, the opposite of how I was raised. When we were raised, we never paid for comfort. But yeah, that's the stuff I always will spend on.
But did you do that when you were not wealthy?
No. That was a big change.
Do you think you have to sacrifice it because right now I am not wealthy. I make a lot of money, but I'm not wealthy. Do you think I should sacrifice?
I think it comes down to the personality type. Like, for instance, I can tip my narrative to myself is like I do my math at the end of the year. I'm like, you could actually spend much more than you're spending. Like it's and
Let's
even
combine
before
the finances.
Even before, because again, I made some money when I was younger. My lifestyle has always been probably under my means, and it's.
That's
I'm not even
ultimate
trying.
freedom.
I'm not even trying. Like I'm trying to.
Dude,
like,
teach me. Can you infuse that?
What do you spend money on?
Okay. I love good things. I love Chanel. I love Hermes. I love Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. See, I don't. Yeah, I guess that is one because I eat out at all the nice places I want to. I travel when I want to. In my mind, I live.
I don't pay for food.
Yeah.
I'm a girl.
Yeah.
But showing up there. Yeah, I do pay. Then living in a nice place. I'm a sucker for view, so I have a really nice 2-bedroom in Rincon Hill. We actually, like, you had a place in Millennium. I
Yeah.
live close by. I'm not gonna say where. And that view every day brings me joy. Plus 2 bedrooms. Half is a business deduction, so
Yeah,
I'm not
smart.
skilled. Yeah, I am smart and fancy. So the place, honestly, yeah, like the rent is really like it's a huge part. Business class, love good hotels. Like in New York, like right now, it's like 1K per.
Yeah.
per
But yeah, that New York is crazy that way. I mean, which is why I feel like, I mean, I have a house and I don't pay rent because I bought it up front, and my property taxes are $4,000 a year. So it's like $400 a month is what I spend to live. So
Love that.
that's great. But yeah, because of how expensive New York is, my house has basically become a rotating guest house for all my friends, which is nice.
Okay, I have to become a friend. Okay, let's talk about your personal life. Are you single?
I am not in a formal relationship.
Okay. How do you combine dating and being a financially responsible founder? Like,
Why do you think those are at odds with each other?
good question, because you kind of can't afford going out much. Not only the money, but the time. So you always feeling like, is my startup gonna die? Over like, let me build a meaningful relationship.
Okay, let's separate it. Let's separate the money and the time.
Yes.
The time part, I think, can be tough, especially when it comes to like context switching, I feel, right? Like, let's imagine you get your ass kicked at work all day and then you have to go on a date. It's like hard to sometimes be in the right headspace. So that part I do get. That part, I think the way you deal with it is, honestly, I just go on fewer dates than I used to. Like when I was, younger, people would go on dates 3-4 times a week, like just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm just more selective when I do decide to do that. From a financial perspective, I think when it comes to dating, you can choose how much you want to spend, right? It's not, you don't have to go to the nicest places or whatever. From my perspective at this point, again, I don't care, but I'm thinking back to being a founder before an exit event or whatever. I think you can decide what to do.
Yeah, because so my friend Nikhil Viswanathan, he's like, he wouldn't put avocado in his Chipotle. So dating was kind of hard.
Fair.
Now there is the opposite problem that like mentally he's just like so all over the place that it's really hard to make time. Now it's a different
Correct.
Like, further you didn't have money,
Correct.
now you have
Like
money, you
for
have
me,
no time.
For me, I would trade off like money for time wherever possible, right?
Yeah, now.
Correct.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay, are you stingy?
I don't think so. I think again, like this is the question you should ask the people around me, but I tend to think I'm quite generous, and that's the way I was raised, and that's how I've been even sort of before the exit. That's what I would like to think, at least. But again, that's the sort of thing you have to ask the people around me if they believe that.
Do you pay on dates?
Of course.
Of course. Do you think
I don't know, maybe I don't want to get canceled, but I just think like
let's get canceled?
I think guys should just pay for dates. Like
Yes!
I think
guys
sometimes
should just pay for dates. Can you say like 3 more times?
Yeah. No, but I do think you lose something when, you like women are trying to be men, and you should just kind of have.
Goodness, I love you.
Yeah, have even if you can't afford it and the date is then not that fancy, that's fine. But the whole idea of like split. Oh, even worse. The worst thing I saw is someone sending a Venmo request after a date.
I had it once.
Which is
had
insane.
it once. We went on a date, first date, and it was years ago.
Yeah.
And after the date, the guy like, I enjoyed the date, and like, when is the next time? I'm like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And he sent the Venmo request. Fucking
Yeah.
Venmo request. Oh my goodness.
No, and I just So I've never been of the belief that like dates should be split. That's just weird to me.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so you pay on dates. Do you give expensive gifts?
Typically, I've not, but I think part of it, I think my time is very expensive. So I think that is an expensive gift. But I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of the people I've dated, right? I don't know if you believe in like the love languages or whatever.
I do. What is your love language?
So mine is typically time, touch, and like gifts would be last. Like if I stacked rank them, it would be last. And it so happened a lot of the people I've dated feel similarly. So it's less about gifts versus like thoughtful gestures, going on trips, going to places, gifts are just not super.
The priority.
Yeah, exactly. So it's less about like, oh, I'm like stingy and wouldn't want to do that. It's just I
It's
don't
not that
value
important.
gifts, and typically the people I date also don't specifically value them.
And the most important is the quality time. That's
Yeah.
the most valuable.
Yeah.
How do you spend the quality time?
Quality time, which you realize is it doesn't even matter what you're doing. Again, I think obviously it's different in a dating context, but if you ever like, what I find the difference between male and female friendships, right, and dating is its own category, is you become friends with dudes just doing stuff together. You don't talk. Like, it was actually funny. My mom was asking me, she's like, oh, you know this person, you play sports with him, like, what does he do? And I was like,
I don't know.
is he dating someone? I was like, I don't know. And yet we like send each other like paddle videos back and forth, right? So it's stuff like this where male friendships, like, they're forged just by like spending time together. Obviously in a dating context it's different, but
Do you have girl friends?
I do have female friends, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's is it?
But with that said, all my female friends have happened because of where we like either like worked together or we grew up together. I'm not a big believer of like people go on dates and it doesn't work out and they're like, let's be friends. I was like, I have enough friends. You know, it's
Ooh,
or like friends with exes. I just feel like stuff like that. It's
you draw the line, friend and the romantic part.
yeah.
Okay. For your female friends, do you still like pay for meals so it's like 50-50?
I don't. I would categorize them in the same category as like my male friends, where typically especially if I've financially have more come from a better place, I will try and pay for my friends in general. A lot of them just push back on it, so it depends on sort of what they would push back on. But typically, most of my relationships are I'll like try and pay, but a lot of people will just be like, nah, I'm not going to let you do that. So, which I think is a good sort of balance where each party is trying to like sort of do something for the other one versus the opposite.
Okay, I have a lot of guy friends and they just like don't let me pay for things. Like, and it's purely friendship. And that kind of set the foundation for me in dating life. I'm like, I cannot go less, like you wouldn't even become my friend in that point. And it actually helped me to kind of like, if my friends are there for me emotionally, helping me to succeed, win, like caring for me, like if you're not a provider, if you're not like taking care of me, you're just not in my life, period.
Yeah.
Okay, do you believe that men should provide for women, for the family, kids, big purchases, houses?
Do you mean by provide like the man should earn more money, or like isn't
No, it's like your money is our money, my money is my money.
I think in general, again, if and when I get married, I think the expectation is I would want my wife to either if she wants to work, cool. If she doesn't want to work, doesn't work. I think that's totally fine. Again, I think I've never thought about it with should men be a provider or not, but I do think there's this comment of like, I forget where I read it, where someone's like, I want to make enough money that my wife's small business can lose $20,000 a month, right? Like,
yes. You're already there.
yeah.
Because the most important thing, I think, and it goes actually both ways. I realize that in my relationships, like, men usually successful, but when I love them, I don't care. What I care about is that they do what they love, so they're happy. And that's how I realize the men also probably think, yeah, if what I'm doing brings a ton of money, cool. But if I lose my happiness over it, you wouldn't be cool with that because like you just unhappy. Kids would be unhappy. I'm gonna be unhappy. It's not worth it.
I have again, it's very easy for me to say that, but I do have friends that struggle with it. Especially, I know a reasonable amount of women that are fairly successful, and it's tough for them because one of them, I'm not going to name names, makes more than her partner. But her partner struggles with it, and it's just like a bad sort of dichotomy where she doesn't care, but he cares. And yeah, I also just empathize with how that can be tough.
Actually, yeah, I agree with you. So I, for content, Bentley is not mine. I rented a Bentley in LA to record a content, and the guy, not my guy, just like the videographer, was driving, and I was like, man, I don't feel comfortable. And I was like, if it was my boyfriend and I was making more than him, I'm like, how can I trust you? Because your mistake would be my responsibility. I cannot
Oh,
relax. Like if you
wow.
crash the Bentley, I'm gonna be paying for this. So I cannot make you let the family
So you're
decisions.
saying, let's say your business is now making $1 million a year. You wouldn't date someone who isn't at that level.
Ooh, that's a good question. So, Elon, in between his company, he was sleeping on the couches. I will take him on the couch.
So
Yeah,
you
Elon,
you
there is always a couch for
so
you.
you avoided the question. Very smart. Very very
I'm
very
a
deft.
lawyer.
Very deft.
No, okay, I'll tell you the truth. So I'm 34, so I do want family and I do want kids. So I'm looking at a person with whom I can relax in terms of the money that he provides for the foundation of the family. I will always be successful by doing what I love, because when you love, you cannot be not successful. But I don't want to have the pressure that I can't spend time with my kids. I need to be working and doing this stuff that I don't enjoy. And I do have lifestyle that I enjoy. So I don't know what is it in terms of the money, but there is certain level, I'm not gonna lie. But I also have some friends whom I love in my heart, and I know that they're, for example, on their next idea, and now it's hard, but they have the track record of success, and I will be all supportive if they go all in on something, because I know they
So
can
it
get
sounds
a
like
job.
it's more ambition than money to a degree.
Grow, because I have
Yeah.
the abundance mindset and the growth. So if we're not growing together, I'm gonna overgrow you, and I want a life partner.
Yeah.
I don't want a sugar daddy. I don't want to be a sugar mama. I want a partner to grow together, and we can. But there should be foundation in the beginning. Later, yeah, if you go all in on the idea, and I make more money right now, okay. But to start with it, I don't think I would start with that, because we would not get into the deep relationship, because it takes a couple of years.
Got it. So the more successful you get, the harder this is going to be for you. That's what it sounds like. So
I know, but I'm manifesting, and I need just one. I don't need 3, 5, 10, just one. So far, I've been attracting that, and as long as you believe, it comes, and you just need one. So you guys. No, I'm kidding. Okay, but we're very aligned in terms of the values, and I think values that we have a little bit different than what we see in America, like this independence 50-50. I tried doing that, and you know what I manifested? I manifested a guy who got me diamond earrings from Costco, and we split 50-50. That was the end.
that was
That
game
was
over. Yeah,
game
no, I
over.
mean, again, I think living in America, just in general, you forget how big the world is, and so much of, I don't know, my life has been influenced by not growing up here and just seeing that there's so much more to it.
Yeah. And now I'm talking to a guy, and he's like, also the way that now I think about dating, I have my picture in terms of the life goals, and then I ask him just to see, because I want him to be happy, not to, change his picture to adjust to me. And he's like, yeah, going to Cartier on Fridays is a good family tradition. I'm like, sign me up. Where?
I'm gonna guess gifts are your love language.
Because I grew up with my parents being busy, and they divorced. So I didn't have a lot of quality time, and their love was given to me. Here are the instructors, personal teachers, and gifts. So it is. I'm also Russian. I'm just not going to deny it. And I love great stuff. So if you're busy, I understand that. I still need so if there is no quality time and soul connection, gifts would not matter to me. So I think it's a combination. I need gifts and touch and time.
Such a cop out. I know people that are like, oh, I don't have one. I actually have all the love languages, all of them.
But there is the primary one, and I know for me that's for friendship. It's that soul connection that I just love you as a human on my heart level. So if that's not there, this trust is not there, nothing else is possible.
Of course.
Yeah, I think the friendship is the foundation of any romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, let's go to the founder finances.
Survived that section, so.
You did so great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, founder finances. How much time do you think a founder should spend on planning their finances, personal finances?
Honestly, even though I talk about personal finances, I think as a startup founder, so to be clear, I'm talking about a venture-backed startup founder, not business owner. I think very little because firstly, it's a big decision. Should you raise money or not? Because the implicit promise you're making when you raise money is you're putting aside every aspect of your life for a low probability shot of life changing money, right? But when you make that bargain, you're implicitly saying, I'm not going to make as much money as I could elsewhere. I will basically say no to a lot of other aspects of my life. So as a founder, I think you should pay yourself a salary so that you're not distracted. Like you shouldn't be worried about making rent or whatever, but then spend most of your energy on actually building and running your company.
What founder salary you think would be reasonable at different stages of the company's life cycle?
So I'll tell you what my numbers were, but the big caveat is it varies by how old you are. Do you have dependents? I think the framework is you shouldn't be really saving money, but you shouldn't also be stressed about money. So you should be able to live a sort of normal life. For me, when I started at 24, this was again back in 2013, it's at $70,000 a year. Company did well. I gave myself a raise to 105, 120, 150. And at 150, that was sort of the ceiling where I was like, okay, I'm going to be comfortable no matter what. Like, again, no dependents, living in New York City, right? So the numbers change. For me, this time, I'm not paying myself a salary because I don't need it. But I think...
And you're the owner, so it kind of...
Exactly. So I don't need it, so it's fine this time. But I think...
But hold on a second. Why don't you do that? It would be a business expense. Like, doesn't it make
it's
financial...
probably... Yeah, it's probably more efficient for taxes. Or not efficient for taxes. I mean, I'd have to pay a salary on that.
Yeah.
It's just that right now I'm a startup founder. I think of the company's balance sheet as my balance sheet. And I'm like, we have more runway without it. And at some point I will. Like, for instance, I do get health insurance from the company. So it's not like I get nothing.
Yeah.
At some point I'll pay myself. But at the end of the day, if we succeed, that's the big difference maker. You know, paying myself $100,000 is not going to do anything.
So when I do investor due diligence, I actually look at the founder salaries, and it could be a red flag. Once I did the financing, and the founder CEO was paying himself $1 million, and it was like a seed stage company, and the company wasn't like even doing that well, but the guy was like, you know, established and stuff like that.
It's almost extortion at that point, and it's also inefficient because you're paying yourself $1 million in W-2. Half of it is going in taxes, so...
Yeah, he had the lifestyle, I don't know. And I raised it as a red flag during the due diligence, and the business folks were like talking about that. They ended up investing, so it wasn't their...
Wow, it wasn't a deal breaker.
It wasn't a deal breaker.
This would have been like this would have been zero interest rate 2021, 2022, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but it like the lead investor talked to other investors to kind of like they did the due diligence, and they were really thankful that I spotted it and I highlighted it in the beginning of the process, because that's an important issue. What would be for you a red flag when you do the due diligence on a startup?
Well, most of my investing was early stage. There was no due diligence, and that was a good and bad.
How you never lead?
I almost never led during this period of time. We're doing supporting checks, typically with a different lead investor. It was also so early on, right? It's like you're doing the first check into the company. There really isn't even that much due diligence. But what would be a red flag typically, and a lot of this honestly has been like lessons learned later on. But what I found is I invested in a few founders that were fair weather founders. They were there when times were good and times were easy, raised a bunch of money. But as soon as things got hard, they were like, things are too tough, I give up. Compared to some of the other founders I know who had a really tough time fundraising, stuck it out. Because a lot of times grit is such an important attribute, and it doesn't come up in a diligence report, but that's sort of a big difference I've seen having done a lot of investments in a good period of time.
That's really good. You basically looking for the trait of the grit that you can survive.
You have to be willing to like eat shit for a period of time to survive, and a lot of the best founders do have it, but during good times you can't tell who does and who doesn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you know that.
And also, just I guess like one more point. When I raised money, I had a sense of fiduciary responsibility. I had a sense of like, wow, I can't believe these strangers have trusted me with money, and I did not take that lightly. Like, even if the company failed, which it could have, every one of my investors will know I gave it all. I sent them an update on the first of every month. Like, a lot of companies have invested in, you'd never hear from them, and then they go out of business, and you're like, wow, this was just, you don't feel good as an investor.
That's so stupid because actually investors know that as a second-time founder, you have better chances of succeeding. So if you treat your investors as your partners, you update them, the moment you close your company, you start the second, they might be your first check in.
They also can save you when things aren't going well. There are so many company founders I never heard from. Their next email is like 200 years later. They're like, we're running out of money. We need to put together an emergency round. It's like, you're not going to get an emergency round if you haven't updated people. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I think like when you get the investor in, that's money almost the second. The first one, getting access to your network. Like, Jesus, this is, why would I not text you?
And you build relationships that grow and compound over 10 years, right? A lot of my early investors have become really close friends. Like, that's very meaningful. And all I did, I mean, obviously I met up with them and stuff, but the biggest thing I did is I literally sent an email on the first of every month. It didn't take that much effort. As a result, they thought I'm super organized. I'm not. They thought the company was generally doing well, but they were like, wow, you must run a very tight ship. No, we're a disaster. It's chaos on the inside. But when you get an email on the first of every month, it doesn't matter if it's a Sunday, doesn't matter if it's a holiday, they're like, wow, this guy runs a tight ship. And that went and continues to go a really long way.
So I think the bottom line here, if you build long-term relationships with long-term people, that's the only thing you can do as a founder to protect your downside, because you don't have cash, you don't have savings throughout the journey. Only the people in whom you invest, who work with you, your team, and your investors. That's
absolutely. And taking the like meta philosophical part of it, outside of how you do financially, the thing that sticks with you the most from any of this is the people. All the more reason to kind of double down on that, right? There were definitely times while running Teachable where I'm glad things worked out, but even if they had gone to shit, I would feel so grateful for the people, like the investors, the team, the customers. A lot of them have become these amazing relationships, and ironically takes the pressure off, because you're like, no matter how this goes, I'm so grateful for these connections and these people that'll stay with you no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. And as long as you don't lie, you're going to be fine. Everyone knows that 90% of startups fail. Your second time will be much better than your first time. Like, the success
I never
rate
grudge a founder where I feel like they've given it 100%.
Yeah.
What I do grudge is if I feel like a founder bounced as soon as things got hard.
Yeah.
Or that kind of sucks. But if you gave it 100% and you failed, I'll back you again.
Yes. What about debt? Some founders, actually, so I'm building the technology for my law firm, and I hire founders. I hire like legal tech founders who didn't, succeed.
Make it.
Because it's like, it's
bloodbath. Almost no one made it in legal tech. So
no, and you get those like for not a lot of money. It's like the best spend. And so that founder, project manager who's doing that for me, he sold his first company, and he's like, he had so much credit card debt that from that sale, he like significant amount went to pay the debt. He's like, I was a founder, so I was putting things on my credit card.
Terrible idea.
I
Terrible
agree.
idea.
I agree. So what would be your recommendation?
Again, when you run a company, again, you don't want to be getting rich off your salary, but you also don't want to be moving in the wrong direction. Credit card debt or any kind of debt that compounds and grows at a really bad rate is doubly bad. And it's also when I think founders are at risk of doing like making unethical decisions, like
because pressure.
Yeah, that level of stress, you already have enough stress to deal with. That level of stress is not worth it.
Yeah.
So I think what I would tell people to do there is, for a lot of people, start by building a services business. Start by building a business where you can make some kind of, make money up front so you don't have to do that. Yeah.
Some founders think, for the year, I'm not just going to pay. I'm just going to accumulate stuff on my business credit card. Bad idea. Like, take a loan. If like you really have to take a loan, at least the percentage wouldn't be.
Or venture debt. I don't love venture debt, but it exists for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Or angels. I think that's like what I'm considering that I might hopefully not, but I might raise from angels, at least you get access to their network. So I'm like, I will take your check just because of your network. You're going to bring me through like clients more money than you would give me like with your 10K. Okay, in terms of the emergency fund, do you think like founders should prioritize having a personal emergency fund? And what about business emergency fund?
So again, in general, for personal finance, they always say people should have between 3 to 6 months of expenses. I think as a founder too, you want to do that because your chances are you're not really paying yourself a very high salary. So I think you want to ideally have your fundamentals in place, which means no bad debt, so no credit card debt, nothing that's like 15, 20% APR. Emergency fund of at least 3 months. I think again, it just protects you when things change. Aside from that, all the other stuff like 401k, IRA, whatever, do it when your company does it. So when, like our company now, we don't have a 401k. Our team's like, when do we get a 401k? I'm like, when we get to 3 million in ARR. So there's a time for it. Once that happens, tap into it. But as a founder, you're just making such a big bet with asymmetric upside. I never thought about my finances until like 1 month before selling the company.
That makes sense because you're running, like you either die or make it. So you kind of put all in.
And the world changed a lot where some of my founders got so distracted with crypto during 2021 and 2022 where they ended up like just not focusing on their business. And a lot of times they ended up making money, but it put the whole business in a very weird spot. Like, how would you feel if your boss is up late trading shit coins and, you have to come into work the next day and work for them? So
yeah, I have founders like that. Okay, to switch back, because it seems like all of the chips are on the table with your company. So what can we do briefly in terms of taxes to optimize? Like from the incorporation, I think 2 important things is 83B, just don't mess it up, and QSBS. Maybe let's touch base on that.
Absolutely. So 83B, typically when you get shares that are vesting over a period of time, you have to fill out a form called the 83B election. You don't want to mess this up. Like, it's the sort of thing, we had someone on our team who didn't do it, an employee, not a founder. And even then, it's a giant mess and will end up costing them at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. As a founder, it can cost you tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Just and investors do pay attention to that.
Just if you use Stripe Atlas, they'll do it for you, but just make sure you talk to someone. Don't mess up the 83B. The other thing you want to do is look at the 4 magic letters of, startup taxes is QSBS, Qualified Small Business Stock. This can allow startup founders to pay nothing in taxes on, officially it's $10 million, but through some smart planning, you can get it to
$500 million.
500 on the max. 30, 40, 50 is more normal. But again, even this comes down to what not to do versus what to do. Typically, QSBS, it's an election you make after holding shares for 5 years, but make sure you talk to your counsel, or if you're working with Kristina, she'll take care of it, to not mess it up. And what that means is you want to be a C corporation, you want to be in good standing. There's certain types of businesses you want to avoid. It's only applicable to shares while your net assets are $50 million or less. But most companies should qualify unless they accidentally mess it up.
Yeah.
2 ways people accidentally mess it up is if you do a large share buyback, run that by your counsel, because if it counts as a significant redemption, it can blow up your QSBS. The second thing is if you get fancy investing assets on your balance sheet, like let's say you're buying random stuff, they may conclude that you're an investment company and therefore it's not a qualified trader business. So talk to your counsel, but don't mess that up because it is a very, very expensive mistake.
Yeah, it's the single most important tax break for yourself as a founder, for your employees, for your investors.
For everyone.
So for everyone.
It's the sort of thing that I tell people this and they're like, it can't be real. It's too good to be true. And why are startup founders potentially paying zero taxes on tens of millions of dollars? But while it's there, take advantage of it.
Yeah, Eric Bunn, Hustle Fund. Do you know Eric?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so we did the also webinar together, and he actually made that mistake. So he started as an LLC, didn't convert properly, so he lost significant amount of money. That's a good problem to have. It means that you made the exit.
It's a good problem to have. But again, it's back to the world's smallest violin, right? You tell people you're like, yes,
yes.
I messed up and I have to pay millions of dollars in taxes.
And they're like, poor you.
Yeah, poor you. Pay your fair share.
Yeah, but it was significant enough that make him cry.
Correct. Yeah. But this time, for instance, worth noting for people who work at a startup, you get this as well. The only thing is, your 5-year clock starts after you own shares, not options. So what we did for our early team members, for instance, is we gave them restricted shares, so their clock would start, but that's why they all needed an 83B.
Yeah. So I automated. Naval advised me to start automating things. So the first thing that I did is I automated startup launch package, and unlike Clerky or Stripe, it has everything like in one package. That we start the company, issue stock, set up equity incentive plan, all of the forms like consulting agreements, employee and stuff, and all packaged in the data room, ready to be shared with investors. And so you can issue restricted stock out of your plan immediately at the nominal value.
Yep, that's awesome.
And honestly, don't get fancy in the beginning unless you're unless you're Ankur, like a second-time founder. You have the money to start as an LLC, then convert to a C corp to make this fancy 500.
I didn't do it this time.
Yeah,
because there's downsides. So one of the things you can do is you can start as an LLC, get your asset value to like 40 million, then convert to a C corp. And then theoretically, you get a $400 to $500 million QSBS limit, but your clock doesn't start till you convert. So you lose a couple of years.
You might lose the whole thing.
And like your company may not be successful. This only applies on amounts over 50 million. If you sell a company for 50 million, you don't get any QSBS at all. So it's a very high risk strategy.
You didn't take it.
I would not do it. Again, as much as I love talking about taxes, the biggest thing is to build a successful company, and that's really, really hard, right? You don't want to spend all your time on, like, there's so many business owners I talk to who are worried about taxes, and I'm like, go worry about finding customers. Go worry about growing your revenue. Like, this is not the problem for you right now.
Yeah, I have clients who come to me like, I want this LLC and then conversion and super voting shares and the Series A to like liquidate. And I'm like, dude, focus on getting money and do you have customers?
Yeah.
Like, that's the question
your
you should be asking.
company is probabilistically going to fail. Spend your time increasing the chances it does not fail. It's a 0 to 1 outcome, right?
Yes. Oh, Ankur, from the bottom of my heart, it's been like a pleasure. I think that's what I live for.
Thanks for having me. This has been amazing.
Thank you. What would be the last thing you would tell founders? Yeah, maybe version of you in the past would want to hear
something that I've learned as a first-time founder, I would read these books, I would listen to these podcasts, and I would be like, wow, these people are so smart. And I would try and follow them. And eventually I realized it doesn't matter. It's kind of bullshit. Do your own thing. A lot of startup advice and stuff, like, you have to be authentic to who you are. I made the mistake of doing a lot of things because I read it in a book. The second time around, I've kind of gone back to just relying on my intuition, on my instinct, and like using that as the guide versus like this feeling of, oh, I read this blog post, so I need to do this. So yeah, just listen to your heart.
Thank you. I listened to my heart. I came to New York for this, and my heart led me to the right place.
Amazing.
Thank you. It was Kristina's podcast. Ankur.